All right, happy Wednesday. If you're listening the day we release this, happy Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday. And whenever you're listening, we hope you're having a good day. I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead. If you're new to the channel, stick around because we're going to talk about this whole Jeff Epstein conspiracy thing. JP's got some wild stuff. He's got a notepad in his hand. He's actually done a lot of research on this, so I'm really excited for what he's got to tell. But before we begin, consider hitting that subscribe button. We podcast about a ton of things, from The Walking Dead to conspiracies to supernatural things to just flat out current events. We also, from time to time, put out some videos. So we'll give you some social media info at the end of the video, and we'll also talk about our Patreon. But in the meantime, let's get into that conspiracy chat. So unless you've been living under a rock, you know that Jeff Epstein recently supposedly committed suicide in his jail cell, even though he was supposed to be under suicide watch. And this man was supposedly about to give a lot of information up that was going to get a lot of important people in trouble, right? I mean, he had a lot of really strong connections.
Of course.
And a lot of people thinking that this was no suicide, that he was murdered. I mean, you even got mainstream media, of all people, are jumping on the whole.
Well, people on the left and the right. I mean, this is the one unifying topic right now among leftists and conservatives and all this stuff.
And so, JP, you've got even stronger evidence to suggest something else entirely that we're going to get to here in a little bit that seems fascinating. But so I'm going to let you kind of take it away and guide us through this. You've done the research. You've been reading up on the topic. So fill us in, man. What's going on?
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I've had a file on Jeffrey Epstein for a long time. He's been at this, for decades, for probably like 30 years at least. But I really want. I don't want to just talk about his suicide, his indictments, all this stuff. I really want to go back to build a case for who this person is and why he is such a risk to the powers that be. We talk a lot about the Ninth Circle,
right,
which is just a worldwide conglomeration of pedophiles, child sex traffickers, all this kind of stuff.
You've tied the Clintons to that?
The Clintons, the Vatican, the royal family, Hollywood, D.C., all these, and not the D.C. shoes you like so much, Washington, D.C., which maybe.
I wear Vans, but these aren't. These are boots.
You don't wear no DCs?
I haven't in a very long time.
No. Okay. Well, maybe they're involved in it too, and that's why
I thought you knew me better.
I don't know, but anyway, man, really, and before we even get into Jeffrey Epstein, you got to start talking about his lover, his longtime partner, and I'm probably going to mispronounce her name, Ghislaine. It's not Gosselin. It's not Joss. Ghislaine, we'll call her G. Maxwell. And she's the daughter of Robert Maxwell, who was just a big-time, British newspaper magnate. Think of him like a Rupert Murdoch way back in the day. He was in British, and, man, this guy was tied into all kinds of stuff, dude. I mean, British Secret Service, KGB, and most importantly, the Mossad, which is basically like Israel's CIA, it's their intelligence service. And, I mean, dude, you would see him, chilling one day with Reagan. The next day he would be in the Kremlin. Then he'd be, having kebabs down there in Israel. But he was mainly the Mossad. He was a Zionist, a big proponent of Israel, and he did most of his stuff for them. He was kind of, you remember the wolf from Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
He was kind of like that. He was like a fixer, you know what I'm saying? And the Mossad, they were also very aware that he had certain appetites. He was a deviant. He liked young girls. He liked doing this. He liked doing that. So they supplied him with with prostitutes. You see what I mean?
Right.
As you would do if you had a deviant in your employ. Well, what they also did was basically record him with these, underage girls and prostitutes and all this stuff. So they basically had the ultimate leverage on him. You see what I mean?
Right.
And, I mean, back in the day, man, when he put something in the newspaper, everybody, it was all eyes on that, Like I said, he controlled a big piece of the media, so they had their fingers in him, in a serious kind of way.
So they kind of had him by the balls, to say.
Yeah, man, which, I mean, like I said, he was working for the Mossad in a serious way. I mean, he was a Zionist, so it's not like he was some British patriot that they strong-armed into doing this stuff. It's just, if they wanted him to do something that maybe wasn't in his best interest, he
really had no
Had him
choice
over a
but
barrel,
to do it. Yeah.
And he was also into some other shady stuff, man, like stealing, misappropriating funds through his companies. He's one of these, mover and shaker, buy, sell, trade kind of guys. I don't.
An overall scumbag.
Yeah, dude, I don't know much about finance and all
From
that
the
stuff.
description you've given me.
Yeah. And he was also, man, he was just getting off on being that guy, being famous, being powerful, playing this side, playing that side. And he, in 1991, had a mysterious death himself. He drowned, and that's always been up to...
Where was it that he drowned? Did you have that? Do you know where? Like, was it a lake, his pool, or...
I think it was a pool. I actually didn't...
I think I remember. The only reason I ask is I feel like I've heard of that part before. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that sounds familiar to me.
Yeah, I condensed a lot of notes.
And say his name again?
Robert Maxwell.
All right, continue. I'm just gonna Google his death.
Yeah, man. But anyway, after Maxwell dies, his daughter Geslin. Again, I'm probably not saying her name right. She, she's used to like the big life. She's used to living big, the finer things. And she had met Epstein through her father, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, he was like before Epstein got into the skin game, man. He was another. He was like an investor, a Wall Street guy, like doing Ponzi schemes, ripping people off, getting all this stuff. And she basically like hooked him up with a lot of connections that she made through her father. In politics, Hollywood, royal family, all this kind of stuff. And she basically just taught him the ropes when it comes to getting in the flesh trade, perversions and moving people around. And just to give you an idea of some of the people in his contact book, people he was chilling with. And again, like he basically like Jeffrey Epstein in the day was probably throwing like the dopest Hollywood parties you would ever go to.
Right.
So just because I'm going to read a name on here, I'm not insinuating they're a pedophile. I'm also not saying they weren't, diddling little girls or whatever. But these are just some people he had connections to, like when they're going through his files and stuff, like basically, like your little black book or whatever. So I'm going to read some names. Alec Baldwin was in there. Again, big Hollywood guy. Again, he could have just been there, just...
Right, these aren't to throw accusations. Yeah. This is just saying these are people that he had ties to.
Yeah, Michael Bloomberg. This next name I know you're going to love because it's probably your favorite person to play on the radio, Phil Collins.
Oh, yay.
And, like I said, people in the music world, also a ton of people in British royalty, probably a lot of the royal families throughout Europe. Members of the Kennedy family. We're talking about Henry Kissinger, Courtney Love, like of all the people.
Really?
Courtney
As if
Love,
she's not in her own conspiracy.
Yeah, right. Which, I mean, I'm sure if she was looking for... Anyway, we won't get into the Courtney Love conspiracy. That's a whole other rabbit hole. The Clintons, the Obamas even, Rupert Murdoch. Yeah, man. George Soros, he was a big funder of Hillary.
Which, again, just reiterating, these are not people that you're claiming are or are not pedophiles. You're just saying these are people that he's partied with and has ties to.
Yeah, these are just, people who chilled with him. Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein, which is hard to imagine they weren't, doing some dirty stuff.
Yep.
The Trumps, of course, which it's also interesting that Donald Trump back in the day actually kicked Jeffrey Epstein, names are hard this morning, actually kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. So like,
really,
I don't know
the reason.
I don't think that they were like tight, like talking about. But it's someone that you can pull up a picture of Donald and
I've
Jeffrey,
seen it. Yeah, well, of course, being everybody's trying to get him out of office. I've seen tons of pictures of him But so everybody on both sides of the political spectrum have spent time with this guy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, both even Stephen Hawking has chilled with him at a time or two.
Oh boy, I was going to make a joke with Stephen Hawking, but rest his soul, I won't do that out of respect. Not a pedophile joke or anything. Okay. I was just going to make a, having a drink joke, but
yeah,
I won't do that.
But man, and one thing to keep in mind, you talk about the Clintons. We're trying to say, some of these people were probably just chilling at his parties, yada yada yada. But Bill, according to my sources, was on his plane 26 separate times, going jet setting with Jeffrey Epstein.
Was he going to his little island?
Yeah,
'Cause that's what the FBI is rating now, right? What are they calling that? What are they calling it, like Pedophile Island or Rape Island or something like that?
Something like that.
It's got some kind of like bad nickname. Oh, and going back real quick to the Robert Maxwell, he's not who I was thinking. He was found floating naked in the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
After he had been on a yacht, they found his body naked.
Yeah,
he went missing for a little while. So definitely some, some fishy stuff. No pun intended.
But I mean, there was one dude, and he it's basically like a honeypot situation. We're going to get into that as well. Like, say you go to a Jeffrey Epstein party, and one of his employees or whatever is like, "Hey man, I got this ripe teenage girl upstairs. She's going to give you a massage, and it can go wherever you want, And I mean, you being a smart guy, well, you not being a pervert for one thing, obviously wouldn't want to do it, but you just being a smart guy in general would probably be like, something's a little off here. So basically, I mean, like you would go to a Jeffrey Epstein party, man, and he would get dirt on you. He would, get you in a room, and you'd be, doing whatever you're doing with an underage girl. He would tape it. And now he's got the ultimate leverage on you. You know what I'm saying? Say you're a congressman. Say you're a Hollywood producer. Say you're a cardinal or something. Who knows?
Well, if I may, from the New York Times, an article written by James Stewart, he says that he was taught. This is after Epstein's suicide. Mm-hmm. Air quotes, suicide.
Right.
But this is written after that, and he's talking about their conversation. And let's see, he talks about how Epstein told him that he hung out with a lot of rich and famous and powerful people, and that he had pictures to prove it.
Oh yeah,
and he even claimed to know a lot about these people, like some things that were very damaging and embarrassing, like like drug use and sexual, scandals and things like that. So yeah, he made it well known, well before his death, that he had a lot of dirt on a lot of very important people.
Oh, yeah, man.
Like straight up proof, not just word of mouth. We're talking like photos and video. And the island has 3 nicknames.
Okay.
What I was talking about earlier. The Island of Sin, Pedophile Island, and Orgy Island. I think Orgy Island's what I've been seeing in the headlines.
Sounds like a Fox reality show from like the early 2000s.
The Island of Sin on Fox. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, man. No, I mean, this is a give and a take, brother. How much would you think one of his like girly prostitutes would make in a year?
From him, or just like from clientele?
Yeah, just what they would get from, because I mean, it's a pimp situation. Like, he gets all the money, but he gives them enough to make them happy, keep them from talking, all that kind of stuff.
Well, being he's filthy rich, and almost every rich person that I know is very stingy, he probably didn't pay him much of anything.
About 200 grand's with them.
Oh, never mind.
Some of them would clear.
Never mind. I thought it was going to be one of those things where they were being prostituted out and making like, minimum wage or something. So I mean, he was paying them pretty good. Now, but when you say prostituted out, were these willing prostitutes?
Well, I mean, it would depend on the case. I mean, a lot of them were underage girls who were abducted, and at that point, I mean, what are you going to do?
I was going to say, because the whole thing is sex trafficking and stuff. So I mean,
a lot of these girls were. Sometimes they'd be like from a poor Eastern European country, and their families would literally sell them to these sex
disgusting,
traffickers.
man.
I mean,
that's disgusting.
So a lot of these, the girls just had no choice. I mean, you're going to have to do it anyway, either that or just get put out on the street or killed or whatever.
So they found girls in very bad situations and just took advantage of it, basically.
Generally speaking, and there's probably some that straight up just got kidnapped, I mean, you hear about American tourists in some countries, and so like I said, I'm sure they came from a lot of different situations and places. But 200 grand a year. And anyway, Epstein, man, much like Robert Maxwell, had ties to the Mossad, ties to Israel, and his girlfriend Ghislaine had a lot to do with that. And the Mossad, they were using these tapes and stuff to blackmail people in a lot of cases. And, he had leverage on people. They used the leverage. And it's just, it was, like I said, it was a big old honey trap. A lot of times he would just have orgies at his estates, whether they were in California or, like you said, like Pedophile Island. I mean, they pretty much, you weren't busting a grape on Jeffrey Epstein's dime without, being recorded and that used against you. So, and a lot of people, like he was a hedge fund guy. A lot of times, invest in his hedge fund and basically you have like all access, like a Planet Fitness Black Card or something
Right.
to all the young butt you could get. So
wow, which is leading to why a lot of, as you can see, if you weren't as familiar, maybe you clicked on this podcast because you haven't really watched much on the Jeffrey Epstein thing, but you're like, hey, I want to kind of know. You see now why it's building up that some people definitely don't think that he committed suicide.
Yeah, dude, I didn't want this podcast to be us just saying like, oh yeah, Jeffrey Epstein's a scumbag. The Clintons had him killed. There's no, I really want to make a well-rounded.
Right,
like,
you want to give the
study,
history and the reasons why this is. Yeah, no.
But and basically, man, so he's doing all this stuff, the blackmail, the backstage moves, the sex trafficking across international borders. And I'm getting ready to compare him to someone. Are you familiar at all with Whitey Bulger, the Irish gangster? Basically, he was like the biggest gangster, I guess, in Boston. He was Johnny Depp played him in that movie.
Oh yeah, I've seen that movie. Okay, yeah, I know who that's based. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, man. Basically, he operated, and Jack Nicholson's character in The Departed was based largely on Whitey Bulger. But basically, he operated with impunity, just doing his gangster stuff because he was feeding the FBI information, usually on like his competitors, like the Italian mafia and all this kind of stuff. Well, around 2008. Jeffrey Epstein gets pinched, and he basically starts pimping for the FBI, for the federal government. They let him carry on with what he's doing just so he'll feed them information here, there, and yonder. So basically, he starts operating under the oversight of the FBI, man. And this is all recorded. Now we're going to get into like Dynacorp International. They were a company contracted by the government. And that's where he got like his planes and stuff. He was using them to basically traffic sex slaves across, international borders with impunity because, as I said, they were contracted by the federal government. He's under federal indictment. I think it happened down in Florida. And so he's basically like pimping for the government now. Like they're letting him do this in exchange for information. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. And it's also notable. You're just talking about all the people he had connections with. It's rumored, not confirmed, but rumored on this article that I was talking about from the New York Times that he even was advising Elon Musk at one time.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, I think that Tesla did not, they denied it and said that that's incorrect to say that, that he had been advising him. But still, I mean, this guy had ties to everyone. That's anybody.
Oh, yeah, man. And this Dynacorp, and I hope I'm saying that right, I mean, they've got a long, jaded history. In 1999, they were brought up for trafficking underage girls from Bosnia. In 2004, Dynacorp was accused of raping Colombian kids, and we're talking about like people working in the Dynacorp Corporation. And
wow.
As I said, there's there are planes going from this country to that one. 2008, kidnapping. 2009, child strippers. All kinds of weird stuff. Dynacorp also gave funds to, I don't know if it was to Hillary's campaign or just to straight up Hillary Clinton, but I know she was Secretary of State at the time, and I'm going to dive a little deeper on that. That was just a little side note I made. But Steve Feinberg, he's head of the Presidential Advisory Board for something. Basically, he oversees all federal intelligence communication. He was the I guess like the CEO or whatever of this Dynacorp that's helping take kids from all these countries. It's like we talked
stuff, man.
Yeah, man. It's like we talked about with the CIA. Like there's been a lot of like cowboys found trafficking cocaine and stuff from these countries in the USA. It's not to say that the CIA itself is a drug trafficking organization, but you have criminal elements that, and I think it's similar with this,
It's kind of like you said, think to Captain America Winter Soldier, how Hydra had infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D. It wasn't that S.H.I.E.L.D. itself had gone evil, it's that they had been infiltrated by people with less than good motives.
Yeah, dude, it's wild stuff. St. James Island, that was... I don't think is that the same island as Pedophile Island, or is that something different? Because I've seen images of that, man. They have like this bathhouse.
No, I think that it's alleged that teenage girls were made to take part in orgies on Little St. James. So that's the name of his island. Yeah, Little St. James. I guess everybody's just so used to hearing it called all of these names like Pedophile Island and Orgy Island that you forget the real name, which is Little St. James. It's in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
You can find like tunnels and like there's a bathhouse that looks like some like Mid-Eastern, like, I don't know, man. It's a lot of weird stuff. And so yeah, he got in trouble with that, and we're gonna start getting into what went down after he got arrested. When did he get arrested? It's only been a few months ago, right?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, so basically he told the guard someone had tried to kill him. There's a lot of stuff going on, and he was taken off suicide watch just a few days before he died. I think you had mentioned that.
He was arrested on July 6th, for those wondering. So yeah, it hadn't been that long ago as far as for what's going on now.
And this place they were holding him, I've got the initials here, MCC, I forget what it's actually called. You can tell I'm an expert on this, right? But it's basically, a lot of people call it like the Guantanamo of New York. I mean, they are under 24/7 CCTV. Like there's cameras monitoring them at all times. And there's supposed to be 2 guards checking on them every 30 minutes. And if you're under suicide watch, even more so than that. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You're not supposed to be left alone for more than 15 minutes. Not to mention, I think he was supposed to have like an incel roommate, which they took away, which was like this jacked up.
Yeah, they took him away like the night before he died, right? Yeah, I was reading on that.
It was this like jacked up dude that like killed his family or something like that. I don't know.
Also, here's something interesting from and keep where you're going. I'm just throwing in stuff as I find it. But from the Intelligencer website says that a common, and I quote, a common mistake when referring to the lavish holdings of convicted sex offender and alleged sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein is that he has not 1 but 2 private islands in the Caribbean. About a mile southeast of St. Thomas in the U.S. Virgin Islands lies the 75-acre Little St. James, which Epstein bought through an LLC in '98 for $7.95 million. He later added the 165-acre Great St. James Island for the reported price of $18 million back in 2016. Mm-hmm. But yeah, no, back to the prison thing. Just throwing stuff in as we go so that you have.
I mean, it's a lot of red flags, man. I mean, they're saying that like some of the cameras that were supposed to have footage on them were like malfunctioning.
Of course.
Yeah, man. Like the 2 guards that were supposed to check on him were told to leave that day for maintenance. Like you said, there was no cellmate. And just before like he killed himself, 2,000 pages of like just records and dirty deals and stuff naming all these big movers and shakers, man, were released. So the day after 2,000 pages were like declassified or whatever, brought to light, he dies.
And I was reading they're claiming that the staff was overworked and that even one of the people watching him wasn't even actually a security guard.
Yeah, I've heard stuff like that. Like they were working like overtime shifts, like back to back to back and all this kind of stuff. So it definitely seems like
apparently it didn't pay off.
Nah, man. So that's it's now I'm telling you, man, it's so much to think about. It's just got my mind muddled. People are speculating. Obviously there's the murder thing. I mean, he had connections to so many people. Whether you're talking about Bill Clinton or British royalty or whatever, man. I mean, did they have him murdered? Was he actually taken out by not taken out as in killed by the feds, but they fake his death so they can keep him in kind of like a witness protection program to continue, feeding him information on the sex trafficking network? It's I don't know, man. It's
interesting because Joel Richardson shared on Twitter a picture of a temple that was built on one of these islands. And he says, quote, "It's hard not to read about the Jeffrey Epstein indictment and not suspect that the horrible occult ritual abuse claims to have some validity, like that there are claims of occult rituals."
Yeah.
He said, he had this bizarre temple built on his private island, and it's a very bizarre-looking temple indeed.
It's kind of square-looking.
Square, it's white and blue with like the gold dome up top. Yeah, I mean, like that's a little bizarre.
Yeah, someone told me, or I read somewhere that it's supposed to be modeled after like a traditional like Middle Eastern bathhouse or something. I don't know, but yeah, sick stuff, dude. Sick stuff.
St. Thomas boat operator, because apparently Epstein called the islands Little St. Jeff and Big St. Jeff, and other people called it pedophile island. But boat operator Kevin Goodrich told the AP, quote, "It's our dark corner." Yeah. So it's had nicknames, as we said, like Orgy Island and Island of Sin. I'm looking where it says that you weren't even allowed to snorkel near it. Mm-hmm. You know, like they wanted nobody around there, probably because of some of the sick, sadistic stuff they were doing.
Yep.
But so now there are some people that think, so obviously the obvious thing to think here, the conclusion to draw is that he killed him, that he was killed to be silenced. That's what, you know, I think even mainstream media, like I said, I've even seen like CBS and, you know, people that you would definitely think are in these other people's pockets are reporting about how suspicious the death was. But there are some people that even think that he actually didn't die, that he's actually alive right now. And why is that?
Just like I said, man, just basically in witness protection, just so he can keep feeding them information. And I mean, maybe he had enough money and influence to actually like fake his death, and now he's just living his best life in Uruguay or something. Who knows?
I've seen where people online are looking at the pictures of his body as they wheeled it out, and they're drawing. Well, they're showing. I can't talk today. I apologize. They're showing differences in Jeffrey Epstein's. Mm-hmm. You know, before death and after death photos, and saying that it doesn't look like the same guy. But I mean, you know, one thing you have to consider is after death, the body goes through a lot of bizarre changes, and especially if there was some kind of struggle or something, I mean, things can get warped. And
yeah, man. But you know, it is hard to believe that somebody like this, who's been in the game for this long with this much to lose, wouldn't have some kind of in-game strategy. You know, some kind of scenario for when it really hits the fan to, you know, get out of it.
Kind of like I said about Hitler in a past podcast, that I just, you know, think that there's no way that you're, you know, powerful and cunning enough to do the, you know, all the awful things he did, but not consider having a backup plan. And, you know, you can't be that naive to just not think you'll ever get caught or in trouble.
Yeah, man. So it's hard to say. Hard to say where he is, what happened. I mean, I definitely don't think it was a suicide.
But do you think that he's alive still to inform, or do you think that he was silenced?
I could see the feds. Excuse me. I could see the feds keeping him alive,
just so that maybe because they probably figure that there will be death attempts, so they were like, let's go ahead and just make it look like he's dead. That way, we can get all the information before. And I mean, so all right, when we talk about people, let's just say that he was silenced. Let's forget the whole faking his death thing for a second. I mean, who do you think there's anybody? Do you think it's a group of people that had him killed, or anyone in you know, because obviously people make jokes about the Clintons having something to do with it. I mean, do you think that there's any one particular person or persons that got him killed, or it was like a group thing amongst, you know?
I mean, I think there's a lot of people who had a lot to lose. You know, I don't know who exactly would have orchestrated such a thing. I mean, it could have been the Mossad. It could have been, you know, somebody from like the Soros circle. I mean, man, that list goes on and on.
So do you think
it could have been someone from inside the federal government? Like I said, he operated with impunity under federal, you know, oversight for so long. I mean, there's no telling.
So do you think that you talk about the Ninth Circle a lot? So obviously, I guess it would go without saying that Jeffrey Epstein was a big part of that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I mean, so you think maybe they just kind of had a Ninth Circle meeting and we're like, all right, we got to silence this guy.
I mean, I'm sure there is almost like a board of directors for, you know, this thing from just across, you know.
Which is sad because we're talking about human trafficking and pedophilia. And and you're right, there probably is like a board of these important people.
Oh, yeah, man. And I want to say that they said that he was involved in the world's largest like sex trafficking industry, you know, at his height. So, and like I said, just the fact that it ties into you know, that Dynacorp Corporation, federal government, man, it's some really sick stuff. I mean,
I see that his wife or whatnot, his partner's getting sued by some of the alleged victims now.
Oh yes, well she should, man. I mean, she was probably more the mastermind than anything. He was just kind of like, you know, the
funding
guy out there doing it. Yeah, I mean, so she deserves every bit of whatever he was going to get. How much I can.
Wow.
And I mean, you know, you hear a lot of people really angry that all this was going on, you know, the Dynacorp Corporate, all this stuff, while Hillary was the Secretary of State, she didn't really pursue it because ties Bill had, going back and forth and jet setting with him and all this kind of stuff. So it definitely would have been a lot of people with a lot to answer for. And they probably, like I said, the 2,000 pages, it come out with all kinds of information. I'm sure that'll be, slowly trickling down. And a lot of people are saying that we should be on the lookout for some kind of like false flag attack just to divert attention away from what's going on and the information that's getting ready to be made public. And, I'm not trying to say, whatever just happened or is going to happen is fake. It was orchestrated. But, I mean, they are really good at diverting attention.
Well, that's the thing, man. Big catastrophes might not necessarily be fake. Like, it's the people that say that some of these shootings and things are, that they're. I'm not saying that news people don't hire actors to, but I mean, people really are dead. People really were murdered in cold blood, more or less, and it's, but I mean, it doesn't mean that something couldn't be set up. I mean, I was just watching that Bob Lazar documentary on Netflix, and they talk about in that you like I said, you'd really enjoy that documentary. But in that, which of course is more about aliens, but they talk about the history of our country and false flags.
Yeah.
To get support for something or to divert attention away from something else. I mean, that's not conspiracy talk. Like, these are, there are declassified documents where they talk about false flag attacks.
Oh, yeah, dude. I totally believe in, like, Manchurian candidates, people just used as patsies. They set up this awful mass shooting or whatever. And just kind of like what happened in Las Vegas, man. There's a lot of plot holes in that thing.
I've seen. Yeah. I remember when it just kind of ended. Like, it just kind of, all the talks about it just kind of went away.
Yeah, they figured out a way to just kind of divert our attention on to whatever the next thing was. And
it's sad to think that human lives are just pawns to these people. Mm-hmm. Innocent people just enjoying their life. It's cut short because of, the powers to be's plans. Like, we're just sheep to them. They just take us out whenever they want if it benefits their plan.
So there's a lot of people in the know saying, be on the lookout for some big overblown like scandal or like a false flag attack or something like that, just to divert our attention away from what all the knowledge is getting ready to come down.
I see where Donald Trump's telling them to check and see if Bill Clinton ever went to Pedophile Island.
Like I said, he was, jet setting with Jeffrey Epstein on 26 different occasions that we know of. So
yeah, he says. Trump says, this is from CNBC. Says Trump says I have no idea if the Clintons were involved in Jeffrey Epstein's death. Let's see. He's apparently Donald Trump is behind this whole Epstein conspiracy theory. Like, he's pushing to dig.
Yeah, man, he's all about flushing stuff like that out. I mean, shoot, I remember during the election he was telling when Jeb was running against him and the Bushes were saying all this stuff. He's like, maybe we'll have to look into a little bit on the 9/11 documents and stuff. Talking about George W. and.
Because he says and this is from RealClearPolitics.com, says during a press conference Tuesday in New Jersey, Trump questioned if the former president Bill Clinton visited Jeffrey Epstein's island when asked about his Saturday tweet that blamed the Clintons for Epstein's death. He said, quote, you have to ask, did Bill Clinton go to the island? That's the question. If you find that out, you're going to know a lot, end quote. So, I mean, he's not pulling any punches with that.
Lay off, Donald. I was just there for a cookout.
I did not have sexual relations with those women's.
I'm not a pedophile, Donald.
It's not
what are
funny.
You talking about?
But
I just like a good Big Mac, and well, that's it.
I mean, who doesn't enjoy
Jewish
a Big Mac?
interns,
No onions, though.
Splooging on Jewish interns, that's it. That's all I'm into.
Yeah, I don't.
That impression is slowly deteriorating from bad to god-awful.
I did not inhale. But I don't know. So, I mean, and does this tie into the Bushes, too?
I hadn't really...
Because I know the Clintons are supposedly tied into everything conspiracy and getting people killed. And, I mean, with good reason. There's been some shady dealings around the Clintons. But, does that tie into the Bushes at all? I mean, I know that we say that Jeffrey Epstein and the Bushes definitely have been in contact or been around each other. But, I mean, is that...
Sure. I don't know that what I was looking into had much to say about the Bushes. But
I know that George Bush Sr., George H. Bush, God, I cannot talk today.
Me too, brother.
George Bush Sr., if you watch that documentary I was talking about, he had a lot to do with not alien cover-up from the beginning, but he knew a lot,
Yeah, man. Well, he was director of the CIA, wasn't he?
Right, yeah. So, I mean, he knew a lot. Like they said that the guy in the documentary was saying he went to Bush Sr. and was like, the president wants documents on, and he basically was like, no.
Yeah.
Like, I have to go through this. Basically, he made an excuse, but was more or less like, no, I can't do that. And there's been reports of presidents that have been, tried to pry into Area 51 and the whole alien cover-up and basically told this is a need-to-know basis. You don't need to know anything about it. Anyways, but I digress. That's a whole other thing.
I got to watch that documentary. I've been meaning to finish up Joe Rogan's interview with Bob Lazar as well.
But, so I don't know. You can draw your own conclusions. We'll see what they're actually, I believe, in the process now of raiding and investigating the islands. Like they're there right now, looking through and trying to find things. So I guess we'll see in the coming days what they uncover. But it's safe to say now the whole he's alive and it was a fake death thing I don't know about, but I, for one, definitely don't believe this was a suicide. I definitely believe that someone wanted him silenced. I mean, all we see from interviews with that he's done with people is that he was very almost boastful about how much dirt he had on important people, which probably wasn't the smartest thing for him to tell people who were interviewing him. But, as I said, we do see that he's got it. We're talking photos, videos, stuff that would get a lot of important people in a lot of trouble. So I definitely think someone had him killed or some group of people had him killed.
Oh, yeah, dude. No doubt about it.
But it just if that's the case, then that just it sucks because, now all of these dirt bags that could be taken down won't be. As per usual, the bad guy wins. They figure a way to, outsmart the system and just get away with some of the most horrible things I've ever heard of.
Yeah, man. You can never stomp out evil altogether, it'll just pop up somewhere else. It's all, like Hydra, you cut off one head, two will pop up in its place.
But let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know something maybe we missed or if we got anything wrong. Again, we just are sharing information that we've found. And I think that everyone it's pretty unanimous that this guy was killed. He certainly didn't off himself. Or if he did off himself, he was forced to off himself. It was one of those things where it's like, kill yourself or murder people you love or something.
There's a lot of information out there though. Go out, dig, form your own conclusions. A big source of mine, like the Truth Factory on YouTube, I got a lot of useful info from her videos, but yeah, it's a lot of info out there. Just sift through it and see what you think.
But yeah, so let us know what you think. And away from the Jeffrey Epstein thing and to the podcast, don't forget to check out our Patreon. We keep trying to put links in the description, but it always messes them up. So, if you have trouble clicking the link, just go to Patreon and search for The Podcasting Dead. We should be the first thing that pops up. Every penny that we make is going to, first and foremost, get some swag to give our listeners. We're talking shirts, bandanas, like stickers, koozies. We want to just give you all kinds of cool stuff. And that's looking very possible right now. And once we hit 20 patrons, we're definitely going to be doing that big giveaway. Check that out. If you've liked what you've heard, consider subscribing or if nothing else, giving us a like. It helps us out a ton. We cover lots of, we actually were going to talk about the Donald Trump time traveling theory, which just sounds so outlandish, but JP has kind of briefed me on it, and there are some interesting things of note. Like, even if he's not a time traveler, there are definitely still some interesting things to take away from that theory. So
yeah, we got that coming up. I'd like to get into more false flags, man. Just a little bit. We touched on it today, man. I'd like to put something together for that.
Well, yeah. So we were going to do the time travel, but we're pushing that back because of the whole when we talked about doing that this Wednesday. The Jeffrey Epstein thing hadn't happened. So. But yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts. Maybe you know more than we do. And please, we would love to do a follow-up on this if we get more information on it. Hopefully we don't die mysteriously from this podcast. But if nothing else, we'll catch you tomorrow for Mail Call Thursday, where we're answering your questions. Don't forget, if you have a question, you can leave it on this video, but it's highly recommended that you go to last week's mail call and leave it there, because we'll definitely find it.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow. I'm tired, and I don't know why I can't talk today. I do this for a living, and for some reason today I'm stumbling over words. But hopefully tomorrow I'll be more coherent.
Maybe.
I'm Justin.
I'm JP.
And we're the Podcasting Dead.